It was less than a week ago that the National Enquirer ran a story accusing Ted Cruz of having multiple illicit relationships. And of course, this is very important to Ted Cruz, who has presented himself as the face of God to America. That's the way Heidi Cruz, his wife, has represented the campaign. And of course, he has sought and received the backing of many important pastors across the country. That story, far from going away, is developing more details as we speak. Now today, Radar Online reports that Ted Cruz cheating scandal is exploding with a presidential hopeful named in connection with the murdered D.C. Madam's Black Book. And of course, this is someone that Alex Jones interviewed. He gave the last interview that the D.C. Madam had before she died was given to Alex Jones. She said, "I am not going to commit suicide." And shortly after that interview, she was found with bruises all over her body and hung from a shed. It did not look to us like she had been committing suicide, and nobody believed, except for those who listened to the mainstream media, that she committed suicide. Now, here's the connection with Ted Cruz. It is being reported that her former lawyer, Montgomery Blair Sibley, has filed an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court to remove a restraining order that would allow these numbers to be released. And he says the reason he is doing it now is because time is of the essence. He said the release of these numbers are of vital importance to the election. He says time is of the essence. It is relevant to voters before they cast their ballot. And so the actual numbers that were taken from the D.C. Madam's Black Book, there was a restraining order that was put upon it, and he has in his filing before the Supreme Court said, "If I do not get the right to file my request to modify the restraining order, and if I do not get an expedited hearing, I am going to publicly release those records to see what happens." He says, if they hold me in contempt of court for violating an order they will not give me a hearing on, then I think they lose the right to enforce that order. Investigator Wayne Madsen, who was on the team of reporters who was hired by Hustler Magazine's owner Larry Flynt. And of course, remember, Larry Flynt was interested in exposing politicians in Washington, D.C., who were basically susceptible to being blackmailed, people who were presenting themselves as one thing but were actually living a different life. So Larry Flynt was doing an investigation with the D.C. Madam. And again, it was Wayne Madsen and other reporters who were taking a look at this. And as he pointed out, Wayne Madsen, who was on that team and talked to the lawyer as well as the D.C. Madam, said if Montgomery Sibley has what he says, then it has to be Cruz. Now, another investigative reporter, Dan Moldia, who was also investigating that back in 2006, said there were hundreds and hundreds of pages that were turned over. He said that he did a reverse order on those numbers to see who they were for about 800 of them. They say there were thousands, 15,000 pages, I believe, were in the, 15,000 pages of phone records. He reversed about 800 or so of those, and he said, I would have known if it had been Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump or John Kasich at the time. But see, Ted Cruz at that time was not involved in the public's eye. He was quietly working in the Bush administration. Yeah, he's never been an outsider, folks. He's always been a part of the insiders. So we're going to be following this story. And again, we will have interviews with Wayne Madsen and others on the Alex Jones radio show tomorrow.